I'm going to talk about something called the subglobal system. For about the last 50 years or so, our military has been involved in building a series of underground bases, tunnels, cities, roadways, everything that you need to sustain life under the ground. It's nationwide. It is extremely high tech. It has entrances in every state of the union. The most entrances are in the state of Florida, as I understand it. I've got some maps here that show diagrams of different parts of the country that these tunnels are connected to. They have roadways. People can drive literally thousands of miles underground on these roadways, and they run parallel to what's called a magnetic levitation subway system. It's a subway system where the cars are actually levitated above the rails by magnetism. They're so expensive to build that no city in the world uses them on the surface except for part of downtown Tokyo. But underground, it's all that. They say that they're capable of speeds up to Mach 1. That's not true. They can achieve Mach 2.8. That means that you can basically start watching Star Wars in Los Angeles, and by the time it's over, you can be in Washington, D.C. if you ride one of these subways. They are used to transport passengers. Roadways are used to transport material. That's a map of the underground facilities at Dulce Base, or Mount Weather, excuse me, another deep underground military base. Within the military, these are known as the subglobal system. These are nuclear-powered boring machines. They'll go right through solid rock. What they do is they melt the rock in front of them. They literally melt it, and they channel the liquid stone out to the side, and they pass through it, and it forms a large circular tunnel, which has the surface, as the rock cools, it's like basalt. It's smooth, like glass, surface to these tunnels, and sometimes they'll come back and they'll do another one right beside it, make it as big as they want to. But they have quite a few of these different machines that they use. There's one coming out through a wall right there. They can go down. The average depth of these bases and cities is said to be between 7 and 9 miles deep. That's very, very deep. It's safe from anything that might happen in the surface world, and they've made sure of that. They also use some very high-tech methods to conceal the entrances to these tunnels. Some of them are on military reservations, as I'll show you. But some of them also can be built into mountainsides, and they use holographic images. The military has very high-tech holographic capabilities. Yeah, that's the size of them. You can see the people there in front of it. They're enormous. They can go up to 8 miles a day with these drilling machines. And they've been doing this for a half century or so. So you can imagine, and they've got a lot of these machines. So you can imagine that they have made a lot of progress. But as you can see, they're enormous. And the facilities that they make are enormous. Here's an interesting one, I think. They can go 8 miles a day with these drilling machines. That's a lot of miles. And they just literally melt the rock in front of them. They're nuclear powered, which I don't have the details on that. But they literally melt the rock in front of them and then go through it. The rock is shunted out to the side, hardens, seals into like a glass-like, smooth surface. And a friend of mine, acquaintance of mine, was a colonel in the United States Air Force, worked his whole career in black ops, and he once told me that he wanted, before he retired, to take a civilian into one of these underground complexes. And he wanted to take me down there, and I said, well, I don't have any security clearance. How are you going to get me in there? And he said, you don't understand. When I walk through the door, I'm the commanding officer. They don't tell me who can come in. I tell them who can come in. And so he took me down there once, and it's mind-blowing. The technology that they use is It's Star Wars technology. It's beyond anything you see. They don't use telephones underground. They use holographic things like, help me Obi-Wan. Remember that thing in Star Wars, help me Obi-Wan? That's what they use. When you call someone up down there on a telephone, what we'd call a telephone, they appear beside you, or they'll appear sitting at their desk, and they look just like they're there. And that's how you will appear to them. And that's the technology which is, it's all underground uses this technology. It's all stuff that we don't have access to. They have access to anything they need, you know. It's the military. They have access to any kind of materials that they need to use. These bases they're massive and they are widespread and they're not linear. They branch off. They have warehouses. They have giant hydroponic farms. They have their own system of water, their own system of oxygen. They don't rely on the surface for any of these things. They have stocked up warehouses full of anything you can imagine that you would need to survive for 200 or 300 years down there. They have it. The military's attitude, even the president doesn't know about all this stuff. The military's theory is, in 4 to 8 years, the president will be gone and he'll never give another order to anybody. But the aliens will still be here and so will we. And so what they don't want to do is, they don't want to risk some do-gooder president putting a stop to their plans and projects. They don't want Jimmy Carter to say, no more, no more. So they don't tell him. They'll tell him what he needs to know to do his job. You know, they'll tell him that they're the aliens, but they're not going to tell him the details of all these projects. Because Dulce Base is a secret, it's as secret as Area 51. It's an underground base on a place called Arcaluda Mesa in New Mexico. And it is 6 to 6.5 levels underground. I say 6 to 6.5 because in between the second and third level, there's kind of a little half level that they use as a prison. It's got prison cells in it where they keep captured aliens. The military doesn't treat most aliens as guests. They treat some of them as prisoners, and that's where they keep them. But the deeper down you go in Dulce Base, the higher the security gets, and the worse the situation gets. When you get down to the fourth level, it's called Nightmare Hall. This is where they do these genetic experiments I was describing. They produce clones, thousands and thousands of clones. They're trying to produce super soldiers. They're trying to produce, they produce grays. Gray aliens, the classic ETs with the big wraparound eyes. Those are actually genetically engineered creatures. They're not a naturally occurring type of a being. They are created and they've been relegated to slave status by the reptilian race which created them. They are entirely telepathic. They operate with like a hive mind. They don't have any emotions. There's no such thing as a friendly gray, okay? If somebody tries to tell you that there's friendly grays, they're full of crap. I've met more grays than I could possibly want to ever remember, and I would exterminate them if I had the power. There's nothing good about them whatsoever. They don't care if you hurt. They don't care if you're uncomfortable. They don't care if you're terrified. They don't care. They're programmed to do a job. They'll do it. They have IQs of about 80. They're not very smart. They are responsible for most of the UFO crashes which take place, because they're also not very good pilots, according to my friend in the Pentagon. The bottom two levels at Dulce Base, humans are not allowed to enter or access in any way. They are occupied by a variety of alien races. One of them is the mantid race. One of them is the reptilian race, the draconians. Some of them are grays. There are many different types of grays, aliens, because the military is aware of at least 160 different alien races right now. They are not all distinct because many of them are very ancient. They've had technology for millions, tens, hundreds of millions of years, some of them. Some of them have been able to get to our planet since before we were in trees, okay? You can't catch up to technology like that by putting on an extra shift at General Dynamics. It doesn't work that way. You know, one time, I'll tell you a little story. It's not really related to this, but one time I tried to commandeer a fully armed United States Aegis cruiser, a guided missile cruiser. I went to this thing called Seafair in Seattle. Well, every year the fleet comes in for Seafair, and they have a ship that you can go on to tour for free, right? And the year before this, I'd gone on board the USS Hornet, which is an aircraft carrier. It's the aircraft carrier that the first U.S. astronaut in space was retrieved with. They picked him up out of the water, they set him on the deck, he got out of the capsule, they painted around his feet. That was, who was that? It was, no, it was before Glenn. He didn't do an orbit. Shepard, right. They still have his footprints on the deck, but it was free. It was really cool. And I didn't realize this. When I stepped on the deck, all my hair stood on end. And I knew that I was standing on a vessel which contained nuclear weapons. I didn't think you'd be able to tell. You can tell, man. My hair on my arms stood straight on end. The only other time that happened was during a very spectacular UFO sighting I had. But Washington is more famous for Mount Rainier because it's a taller mountain, but Mount Adams is bigger. It's more massive. It's bigger in girth. It's the biggest mountain in the Cascade Range, and it rests on an Indian reservation. It's a holy, sacred mountain to the Indian tribe, the Yakama Indians, and because of that, nobody is allowed on to Mount Adams. I lived there first 22 years of my life, I guess, and I never met anyone who'd been on Mount Adams, and it was right there. The closest road that comes to it is 16 miles, except for some old logging roads. Well, as it turns out, Mount Adams is the location of a secret alien base inside the mountain. It's a dormant volcano. And I learned that a few years ago from one of my contacts who had been stationed on Mars. His name was William Whitecrow. He passed away a couple years ago. But I saw, in 1984, I saw a confrontation between a very large alien craft and two F-16s. The alien craft was about this far off the ground, and it stayed there for 42 minutes. Well, these F-16s buzzed it. They came from Fairchild over by Spokane, Washington. It took them about 20 minutes to get there. The sighting lasted 42 minutes, but it had to be the Greys. I've never been able to locate a photograph of a craft that looked like the one I saw. I thought it would be easy. The only one I've been able to find came from an Egyptian temple in the olden times, and it had two Greys standing right beside it. It was an exact match. The fighters didn't attack it, but they were mad. They were buzzing it within a few feet. If it wouldn't go up, while the other one was turning around. And then finally, it was hovering right beside a constant care facility for morbidly disabled people. I don't know why. It's the last place I would have expected to ever see one. Lit up like the 4th of July. I couldn't see underneath of it because it was on the top of a hill and there were some trees planted down below. The tops of the trees were blocking the view underneath the craft. So I couldn't see what came out of it or what was taken into it. But I suspect if we did a head count at that hospital before and afterwards, it wouldn't have been the same. So a couple summers ago, there's a guy that owns a ranch up near Mount Adams, and he has kind of a conference of his own, a mini conference every summer. And somebody was up there a couple summers ago, and they were taking pictures of the mountain. They didn't know it was a base. Most people don't. I never knew it when I was growing up there. I just learned that 3 or 4 years ago. Anyways, he took taking pictures of the mountains, and he was developing them right there, you know. And the top of the mountain was opening up. You could see it in the pictures. The two rocks were together, then they opened up like this. Then he took a picture of a UFO coming at it. Quite an amazing thing.
Was that taken from Yosemite Ranch?
Yes, it's taken from Yosemite Ranch. And I saw that picture within 2 or 3 minutes of the time it was taken. It's the real thing. So, you don't know where these bases are, man. They're everywhere. They're places you would never expect, you know. And Dulce Base is one of the most notorious bases in the world because of the human carnage that takes place there, and because of the fact that we have apparently lost control of it to hostile aliens, reptilians. And reptilians there's nothing good about them. And they are running the show here. No matter what anyone tells you about friendly aliens going to help us advance and transcend the next level, it's bullshit, okay? It's bullshit. I've been around. It's not just bases down there. There's roadways, there's warehouses, there's weapon storage, there are ships. They've got canals coming into the tunnels. Did any of you see the picture a couple years ago looked like an undersea base entrance off the coast of Malibu, California? Remember that? That is our base. That is our interest, not an alien base. That belongs to us. And once you go in that entrance, there are underground waterways, mostly natural, which a submarine can navigate all the way to a little lake in Arizona. Yes, all the way under California. There's a Navy base and a little lake in Arizona. Nobody knows why. It's because submarines can cruise right through to that base. Yes. Anyway, they have systematically drained the resources of this nation for decades for these alien projects. I'm going to be speaking about other alien projects on Sunday morning. You should be here if you can. You won't be disappointed. But they've systematically stripped this nation of its wealth. They've used all this drug money. They've stolen all of our gold. They've done it all to build these bases for the benefit of only a few people. These bases are protected, by the way, by 25-ton blast doors, the same type that they used in Cheyenne Mountain. Pine Gap is part of it too, absolutely. Pine Gap is an NSA base. These tunnels, I started to say, they're protected by 25-ton blast doors, the same type they used to protect Cheyenne Mountain, which was NORAD headquarters, right? They're so well balanced that one person can close these doors and seal them shut. Once they're sealed shut, it takes a direct strike from an atomic bomb to open those doors again. They cannot be, they're immune to any other type of attack, okay? And they're multiple doors. Let me get some other photos up here. But they also have holographic projections which can make it look just like a mountainside, like a rocks with a little stream flowing down it, and a street that's been mysteriously destroyed a quarter mile away that they can rebuild in 3 hours and start trucking stuff back in there. Those are logos of the CIA, the NSA, the Department of the Navy, and I can't remember the other one. But it's our secret intelligence agencies which monitor all your phone calls and electronic transmissions. The NSA has all of your voices on tape. They have every phone call you've ever made, every chat message you've ever sent. It's all recorded and it's stored forever with the idea of using it against you if they ever need to. These blast doors, they use multiple doors. It's not just one door like Cheyenne Mountain had. They use 2 or 3 doors in a row, okay? Every one of them is a 25-ton blast door. You can't get in that door. It's to keep us out. There's no one else trying to come in except us. They are expecting the people that run this world, the people that control this world. These are the pictures of the subways. Some of these maglev subways. The people that control this world, they're not expecting funny little rabbit fur aliens to come marching in to save our asses, okay? They're expecting trouble. These places are set up, it's stored with our money, they're stocked with supplies we've paid for, enough to stay down there for 200 to 300 years at least. At least. They are expecting something very bad that's going to make the surface world uninhabitable to occur. And they're so sure that it's going to happen that they've stripped the resources of this country to build this underground sanctuary just for themselves. We're not going to be allowed in. The elite are going to be in there, the people that control the military, that control the intelligence agencies, head of the Illuminati, and the people that they need to serve their needs. They've got hyper modern medical facilities. They've got cities with malls in them, completely empty. They've got people already living there in some of these places. They've got everything that you can imagine. They've got warehouses full of food. They've got their ability to produce their own food. They've got warehouses full of commodities, weapons. They've got ships. They've got planes. They've got, you name it. You'll never get in these places. And they are expecting to lock us out and leave us here to die. That's the plan. The maximum capacity of all these cities, if they were all fully inhabited, is less than 1 million people. Okay? Now, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. I probably wouldn't have believed this myself if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, experienced it with my own self. The military and the aliens both have, there's Phil Schneider, both have access to time travel technology. It's not something that you would, there's some of the blast doors. See how there's 2 of them in a row? They can be sealed off. They can seal off every section of this place. If something goes wrong in one section, they can shut the blast doors. It has its own independent air and water system. They can seal it off from the rest so that the infection won't spread or the attack can't get past them or whatever happens, okay? So the people that run this thing, they do have the ability to distort and travel through time. I can tell you that because they've used the technology on me at least 4 times that I'm aware of during abduction events, against my will. And every time it was for a different reason, and every time it was for a reason that would have never occurred to me. One example is, when I was abducted by the Greys once, this is the only memory I have of being returned home. I was floated above my bed by 2 of these Greys. I was floating in the air, and I could see my future body was out of phase with me, sleeping in the bed still. It's like a few seconds ahead of me. I could see it, and they floated me over top of this, and they lowered me down into it, the same place at the same time. They say it's impossible. They did it. And then a few seconds passed. I merged together with this body. I woke up like I was from a sleep. The room was empty. No time had passed on the clock since I was taken. It's just like you were never gone. Someone that's sleeping beside you would think you were never taken at all. These people know what's going to happen in the future. Well, they can abduct your astral body too, and they've done that many times to many people. But this is the way that they return your physical body. This is one of the ways they use time distortion technology to make it happen without any time elapsing on the clock.
If you know if there's any connection between Project Bluebeam, these underground military bases, and Fort Huachuca in southern Arizona. It's in Tombstone area. It's right, Sierra Vista, Tombstone.
I couldn't tell you anything about that base. I'm sorry, but
Do you know if there's another base somewhere in Arizona?
well, Arizona's full of bases, man. And Yucca Mountain is a base. The Tall Whites have a base outside of Roswell a little ways. Roswell, the Air Force base is the base that's in control of all of our strategic nuclear weapons that are on airplanes. So that is my presentation.